So how many people are, how many people in this room are out on account customer calls, whatever you want to call it, and being asked about Google Apps and Google Mail? What are you hearing?
Well, why do we want to pay more for this over here? You know, well, Google's $50, you know, a year,
Right.
well, bar none the nonprofit and the educational discount. But why do we want us to pay more for BPOS than Google Apps? You know, whenever they have email archiving,
Sure.
they have, you know, the Postini, or yeah, however you say it, that the dedicated service has, and et cetera, you know.
So besides the price thing, what else are you hearing about it?
Well, that's all I've
Yeah,
heard.
anybody in the room? Because that's what you always hear,
Yeah.
but what else is anybody hearing?
One anecdote, some of it is sentiment. Some people don't like Microsoft and
Yep.
like Google.
Yep.
And that's enough to make them sway one way or the other.
Yeah.
But that doesn't last very long in my experience. I'm
Yeah,
talking
so
about
I've got some pretty strong thoughts on that because I deal with this all the time, and I've heard from enough customers that have gone Google Apps and then come back and say, it's not everything I thought it was going to be. So about the best I've heard is that it barely works, and I have yet to run into a client of any size that is running Google Apps. They may be running Google, they're all running Google Mail, even if they've made the move. Very few of them are running Google Apps. And so the Gmail conundrum is, oh, well, their partners provide a bunch of workarounds that make the stuff interface with the Microsoft world. That stuff is not seamless. And so I encourage any of our clients that are looking at both, like, yeah, we'll gladly set up a proof of concept with the BPOS suite and go do your thing with Google. We'll be glad. We'll support you 100% on that effort. And at the end of the day, we have very strong feelings about what you think will provide the highest value. So,
I actually remind them that even though Microsoft has been considered to be running for a long time, Google keeps searches for 2 years and Microsoft only keeps it for 6 months.
You know, if I had one discussion on the whole worldwide partner group standpoint, but there's actually a Google handbook, and they've got a whole section on, you know, the real cost of free. Because what we've seen is that, you know, when organizations go to deploy Google Apps for the cost reason, and it's costly more for all sorts of reasons, productivity, support, you name it. And so I mean, there's tons of great case studies on Microsoft.com as well as on Microsoft.
Yeah, yesterday we actually had put out a blog post asking people for feedback on their experience with BPOS, and one of the feedback that stuck in my mind was this customer in Portland who had moved from on-premise Exchange to Google Apps last year in June, and thinking he's going to get everything on par, and he wrote and detailed his whole experience down there, and then he said, I've gone back to BPOS, and he said, the best thing over here is I don't get a message from Google, you cannot call me, your email is down, but you cannot call me, there's no phone number, right? So
That is absolutely true.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm the bar guy, and no, I'm not. Harry Brill, support of SMB Nation out on Bainbridge Island. And on the Google Apps question, and I think they have an open API for development of third-party apps to fortify their offering. And you don't have that, right? You don't have an open API for BPOS for third-party developers to make gadgets or widgets or whatever.
Yes.
For BPOS, you do.
Yes, we do.
You do. Okay, I didn't know that. All right.
I'll, in my partner showcase that I'm going to do in a couple minutes,
Yeah.
I have a couple examples of what other partners are doing to add value around these widgets and around tools and utilities that are using not only SharePoint APIs, but PowerShell APIs, Exchange Web Services. So those are exposed, and I'll talk about a few of them.
Okay.
And then just to add on to that, one of the things, I don't know if you were on one of, I did 2 webcasts last week about maximizing value around BPOS, and one of those things is engaging with the Solution Developer Showcase, or if you have that intrinsic capability in your company to develop your own third-party apps, it's a great way to add a significant amount of value to that customer experience, and it does a couple of things. From your point of view, you get a very nice high margin sale attached to it. From our point of view, we have a very happy customer with one more sticky app that's going to keep them on that platform longer. So it works out for all of us. So I really highly encourage you to, when Jeff talks about the Solution Developer Showcase, think about things that you can leverage that are already in the can by another partner, or think about some of the things that you can actually build yourself.
Yeah, and it's not to say we have the most robust marketplace, things of that nature, but we definitely have the APIs, we have the services to connect to, and there are a limited set of people who really started to engage with that.
Are there any lists of the third-party apps that might be available?
Yeah, it's on the partner showcase. And I'll show it to you what it looks like. Yeah, like I said, it's not a partner showcase.
In other words, we don't have 140,000.
It's not an app.
Find a good one.
But it's a really long website.
Service business.
Are these APIs open or do they need to be licensed separately?
It's Exchange Web Services, it's the PowerShell scripting API, and it's SharePoint API. So those are just open. You obviously have to have user accounts to go through TLS and connect to them, but they're not licensed out type of.
No, I think what he was asking is are there third-party apps that you can buy that can, which we call the will plugins?
Yes.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
separate question is, if I want to develop a separate application, do I need to have some license from the agreement for that?
No. I mean, to connect to any of our services, you need a login, so that would be a license, but not in the sense that you're talking about from an API.
Well, I can bring up an example of Google Apps. So my company, I'm Scott Salisbury, I own 50K, and we sell document management software. Laserfish is one of our software solutions we sell. Out of the box, Laserfish has everything set up. You've got workflow set up, you've got metadata set up, you can index the values, you can OCR against the documentation within the paper, if you're going to scan paper in. You are good to go from the get-go. All right, so it's not a good analogy, but it's an analogy nonetheless. SharePoint, you don't just buy it out of the box and it works, right? We all know that. You have to hire programmers. You have to have people that can set up the workflows. It's not out of the box. And that's Google. I've been using Google Apps since it was invented, and it's not out of the box. It doesn't come close to Microsoft BPOS. They don't have a communicator tool. They don't have a SharePoint tool. They have a communicator tool, but it doesn't work. It doesn't even compare. If you're going to turn up Google Docs, or Google Apps, I'm sorry, you're going to have people that can actually program it. And it's going to be a lot of work. And it's a mindset change, and it's a set of engineers that have to learn new values and new scripts. It doesn't even compare to Microsoft BPOS. Because BPOS is out of the box, good to go. Google is not out of the box, good to go, and that's my analogy.
SharePoint services works. You can do a lot of things. There's a lot of things you might want to add on, but there's a lot of things you can do with SharePoint right out of the box. I do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So Matt Maloney with Microsoft, and put it another way, I tell my customers, Google gets 97% of their revenue from what?
Advertising.
Advertising.
They're going to protect that as much as they can, right? So that's what they're going to invest in their R&D. Where do we get most of our revenue from? Software and services sales. That's where we continue to invest a lot. So when we frame it that way, it really puts that thing to bed really quick.
Yeah, it doesn't come close to BPOS, Google Apps. I could get on the phone with anybody to talk to.